Glad that you posted these pictures because this is a really great question. In fact, I get this question all the time. So just know that what you're trying to figure out is really common, and blurry pictures are a super common problem for indoor sports. So I wanted to walk through them, and I will kind of explain what's going on. So thank you for including your camera settings. And let me know what camera you have, because while most of the time I'll say that equipment does not make a difference, for indoor sports, it does make a difference. The newer your camera and the better lens that you have, it will make a difference. So I know that's bad news probably, but okay, let's look through this. So you showed me a bunch of sports pictures, which I have opened over here on the right, and you gave me the settings. So this is, you did everything right. So you're using your 18-200 lens and you're in aperture priority mode, which is correct. You said guessing this wasn't the right choice, but that is the right choice. I would suggest shooting in aperture priority mode. Now here is where the lens makes all the difference. So picture one at the foul line. You say ISO 1100 f5.3 1/160th. So the reason that this is blurry is because 1/160th of a second is really slow shutter speed. So I would say for sports, the minimum you should be at is 1/500th of a second. Okay. Now that's hard when you're not using a lens that opens up to f2.8, and that gets expensive. So there's things we got to figure out here. So the reason your picture is blurry is because 1/60th of a second is extremely slow shutter speed. So you're going to want to get this up to 1/500th at least, okay? So there's two ways that you can do that. You can open your lens wider, like f2.8, but I'm going to assume your 18-200 does not open that wide, okay? So this is not a possibility. I am going to assume that this is the widest that this lens will open, to 5.3, okay? So you can't change this. So the only other piece of the triangle you can change is to increase the ISO. Now, sometimes in a poorly lit gym, in fact, I'm going to write a blog post on this week because I just shot my nephew's 3 different games at 3 different gyms with 3 different lighting, various levels of sucky lighting. So what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to increase your ISO as high as you can before it starts to look kind of crappy, okay? I know that's not very technical, but just experiment. Keep increasing this number. 2,000, 3,200. The newer the camera, the higher you're going to be able to go and the better it's going to look. The older the camera, you may not be able to go that high without it turning into a big grainy mess, okay? So this is where you need to experiment with your camera. So for instance, I can take my camera to 6,400 and have no problems. It looks good, but it's going to vary camera by camera. I can't give you a concrete answer because every camera is different, okay? So I want you to just keep increasing this number. See if, this is the example where I said the tide raises all boats. So as you raise the ISO, it makes your camera more sensitive to light, which will therefore mean it needs a faster shutter speed to keep the light out, okay? So as you raise this number, the shutter speed's going to increase, okay? You can't make this any lower unless you change your lens. So you're pretty much stuck with this number. And you're gonna wanna see if you can get high enough with your ISO to get your shutter speed to 1/500th, okay? If you can't, if it starts to look really terrible, then you're going to want to maybe consider another lens. So I see that you are using a Nikon lens. Now, the f2.8 70-200s are very expensive. If you do a lot of indoor sports, it would be worth the investment. Another option that you can use is an 85, like 1.8. Those are generally more affordable, and they'll open to 2.8, and on a crop sensor camera, it'll actually zoom into more like 100 something. Okay, so let me just summarize that, okay, because I know I just said a lot. So see how high you can go with your ISO to get your shutter speed up to 1/500th of a second. If you can't get it to 1/500th, you may want to consider a different lens. I see that you have a 50 millimeter. Now it's not going to zoom in super close, but that could even be a better choice because you can go down to 2.8. 2.8 is usually your sweet spot for sports, especially indoor sports. So try that out. But the reason that your photos are blurry is all shutter speed related. Okay, not that one, but this one, if you zoom in, it's blurry because you can see everything that's not moving is in focus. So you know that it's shutter speed related because this is in focus, the floor is in focus, the people, like his kind of rear end is in focus because he's not moving, but you can see his hand has almost disappeared because of the shutter speed blur. So that is all motion blur and it's all due to your shutter speed. Let's go to this one. Same thing. And here you've got a little camera shake too because you can see it's a little bit blurry back here, a little bit blurry here, but really this is all motion blur. This is because your shutter speed is too low. Okay, so try that. Let me know how it goes. Now let's go to your other. So here you're using your 50 millimeter camera. You're in aperture priority mode, which I like as well. You wish this picture was sharper, more in focus. So let's look at these because these are two different examples. So the basketball picture, you shot at ISO 640. Let's go. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Okay, so the basketball is blurry. And this is definitely, so you're at f1.8, which is why your background's blurry. And you're at 1/500th. Okay, so this basketball is probably moving pretty fast. So quite honestly, you might want to go to 640 or even 1,000 if you want to freeze it. Okay, I don't think this is too bad actually, because you can, with this being a little blurry, you can tell that he's dribbling the ball. If it's frozen, it's not as dynamic because this is actually very in focus. So I don't think this is actually a really bad picture because the blurriness gives it a little bit of a motion feel. The rest of it is in focus. Okay, but if you wanted to freeze this basketball in midair, then you just need to get your shutter speed a little bit higher. And you can do that by increasing your ISO again. So remember, as you increase your ISO, your shutter speed will go up as well if you don't change this. You keep this constant, raise this raises automatically in aperture priority mode. All right, so, so basketball picture. Actually, that was shot at 200. So this, you just want it a faster shutter speed. You probably want it at 500 or 1,000, okay? Same thing though, just take your ISO up. Now this one is slightly different. So let's take a peek at your daughter. Okay, so if I zoom in on her, you can see like her sweater is pretty in focus and kind of her hair is really in focus, but her eyes are out of focus. And this one is different. This one is because you're shooting at 1.8. That's very wide open. And at f1.8, the camera is, or the lens is very sensitive to the depth of the plane. So if you think of geometry, so her eyes are on two different planes. Okay, so this is a plane, this is a plane, this is a plane. So if your focus dot is hitting here, at 1.8, it's going to throw this out of focus, it's going to throw this out of focus. If you put the focus dot right here, likely this eye will be out of focus because 1.8 is so shallow, it's going to be very sensitive. Like her, I think your focus is kind of hitting about right here. I can see her sweater is very in focus and then everything behind it is out of focus. So I would do either one of two things. I would increase your aperture, your f-stop, to say 2.8, or if you want to keep shooting wide open at 1.8, one, you need to make sure the focus dot is hitting her eye, and you can turn her head so that both eyes are on the same plane. That will get both eyes in focus. Otherwise, you'll need to increase your aperture to like 2.8. So I hope that helps. I will post this, and please let me know if you have any other questions. And I don't know if you have downloaded my cheat sheets from my website, my pocket notes, but there is a pocket note for indoor sports, and it will walk you through exactly what to do. I think that'll help you. So if you print that out and take it with you to your next game, see if you can fix the blurriness, and also test to see how high you can go on your ISO before it starts to look kind of cruddy. Okay, every camera is going to be different, so I'll be curious to see how high you can go. And you can fix some of that in Lightroom. So if it starts to get a little bit grainy but not too bad, you can fix some of that in Lightroom with some noise reduction. All right, and I can tell you how to do that as well. All right, I hope this helps. Thanks, bye.